What's up everybody, my name's Thomas. Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever considered a GPS fence for your dog? Well, today I'm going to dig into the SpotOn GPS, the Halo 3, and the invisible fence and see how all three of these stack up against each other. Now, I've done several reviews in the past and I've done some brief overviews for some of these, compared them amongst each other, but this is the first time we're really going to sit down and do all three. So there are a lot of different factors going into this. You've got reliability, you've got your cost, you've got the efficacy of the GPS systems themselves, the various features that they offer, some of the pros and cons, and some actual testing. We'll show you the whole 9 yards. We get the screenshots up here and everything so you can see what the differences are between these fences and which one is going to be perfect for you. Now, for starters, your typical GPS smart fences, especially when we're talking about this tier of smart collars up into the $500, $600, $700 range, are going to have a couple of mandatory features with them. Number one is building customizable invisible fences and building many of them or having the option to do so. Then you're going to have GPS tracking to some degree or another. Now, there are other things that you might find with a specific collar that another doesn't offer, such as like activity monitoring, something we'll talk about here with the Halo in a little bit. But in general, that's what you're getting with these collars. Now, an invisible fence in a lot of ways is better than physical fencing because, number one, you got to go out there and install the physical fencing. Now, of course, you could have fencing in your backyard like a chain link or a 6-foot privacy or something like that. Not everybody has the kind of dogs that is going to be a detriment to. Now, for instance, my dogs, my Dobermans, can leap over a 6-foot privacy fence. Now, granted, they look kind of silly doing it and they have to do a little bit of climbing, but they can leap to the top and pull themselves right over. And a chain link fence, there's nothing to that. That's basically like there's nothing there at all. They can just run and leap over it and be done with it. Now, not everybody has that kind of dog, so it depends on what you got. But installing a physical fence is labor intensive, it's expensive. Even if you hire a professional to do it, it's going to be even more expensive. And then you got your in-ground wireless systems, which are not always dependable. And again, a lot of physical labor out there, a lot of expense, hiring somebody else to come out and do it for you. So these invisible fences offer a lot of different advantage that the traditional systems don't offer you. And that's why they're so intriguing. Now, let's break these three collars down and do a sort of step-by-step comparative analysis. Now, the invisible fence requires a minimum of 3/4 of an acre to build an invisible fence with. So that's pretty large. When it comes to the SpotOn, it's down to 1/2 acre, which is still pretty large because not everybody has 1/2 acre and 3/4 acre lots. Now, with the Halo, you can cover as little as a 30 by 30 foot section. So when it comes to small lots, that's definitely more convenient. The setups for these are very simple and intuitive, especially for the SpotOn. It's probably one of the easiest and most intuitive setup processes out there. You've also got the Halo, which is very similar in a lot of aspects, but it's more focused on a video and visual setup standpoint. It's got a lot of video tutorials for you to look over, which is very helpful. The invisible fence is a little more complex setup, and there may be, you may find it necessary to contact support, which isn't too difficult, but overall it's pretty simple. Now, as far as a features comparison and when it comes to these fences and tracking and battery life, the SpotOn, you can create a lot of fences. You've got 1,500 fence posts that you can use with the SpotOn. The invisible fence is limited to 32 fence posts and it requires a subscription. In fact, it requires an annual subscription, although you do get that first year for free. Halo also requires a subscription and you can build, multiple fences with the Halo, but you are severely limited by your fence posts. As far as the tracking, the SpotOn is, to me, the most accurate out there. It's difficult to beat it. It updates every 6 seconds and has the most accurate live tracking that I've experienced personally with any of these collars. Invisible fence, to me, like I said earlier, it's the least accurate of the three. It updates every 60 seconds. Now, to me, 1 minute is a long time if you look outside and your dog is missing. That 60 seconds plays heck with me trying to do these tests as well, and sometimes it's even more delayed than that. The Halo features real-time tracking, just like the SpotOn, if you pay for the SpotOn's tracking. Under tree coverage, it's a little spotty at times, but it's generally pretty accurate. I would not put it on the same tier with the SpotOn. But I definitely would put it above the invisible fence. The SpotOn features 25 hours of battery life, and it takes about an hour, hour and a half to charge. But when it comes to that sort of thing, these are lithium batteries. They're going to lose their overall charge eventually. I would put it more along the lines of 23 hours, maybe 23 and a half hours. The invisible fence says that it will keep going for 48 hours. Again, you're dealing with a similar situation here, and it's more like 40. Maybe 41, just from my personal experience. The Halo is a 24-hour battery smart collar, and again, it is like the others. It's just one of those things. It's like a smartphone. When you purchase these things, you know you're not getting the battery as advertised. It's always going to be a little on the shorter end than you think it is or what it's advertised as. Now the price is currently $5.99 for invisible fence, $9.99 for SpotOn, and $5.69 for Halo, even though right now you can get $25 off on the Halo and $75 off on the SpotOn. As you can see, a lot of their features are very similar. The only exception would be SpotOn has a lot more customizable fences that you can add to it, as well as the optional subscription. All of them have fairly easy setup processes. With the invisible fence, giving you the option for professional support. The invisible fence also has an advantage with a 48-hour battery, and you definitely get training with all three of these models, especially with the Halo 3 and all the visual guides. Now all three of these collars have various correction methods. Some people like to use static correction. I personally do not. If you train your dog effectively when you first get these collars, you won't have to use static correction. The SpotOn comes with 30 levels of static correction, and it has customizable corrections. You can use tones, you can use vibrations, and you can use, vibration only, or static and vibration, or just static only. You got a lot of different choices there. The Halo is similar, but it only has 10 levels of static correction. It's a little more limited on the customizable corrections as well. The invisible fence has 10 levels of static correction, and it's a little bit limited on its customization, though I would say it has got a little more customization than the invisible fence. The invisible fence probably sitting down there on the bottom as far as, your customizable levels of correction, no matter what correction type you choose to go with. Now we're going to step outside here and just kind of give you a live screen recording show of the actual live tracking that these collars offer and how accurate it is, and we'll see how it goes. All three of them, the invisible fence or the invisible GPS fence, the SpotOn collar, and the Halo 3. All right, we're going to keep things pretty simple today. I've got an open sky right above me, and just going to walk over to the edge of the fence line with the SpotOn collar to see how well it functions when I pass over the border. And as you can see on the screen, I also have the fence set up so that it's right along the line of my actual physical fence. Of course, there's a lot of trees there, but I got this good open spot right here, so I'm gonna walk it out and see how well the collar functions. It's right at my fence line. Right where I drew it out, you can hear it going off. So, right on the fence line, just opened the fence, so I'm maybe 2-3 feet past the fence here. That's pretty good. All right, moving on to the invisible fence. Just for reference, if you haven't seen any of my past videos, this has not been very kind to me when it comes to testing. So, we're gonna see if it's gonna be any nicer today here in my backyard. Nada, nothing. Now I'm out in the street looking funny because I'm standing out here recording myself. Nothing. Sometimes the invisible fence will go off as I return. So, see if we get such a luxury this time. Nada. Not a very good test for the invisible fence. Same thing now with the Halo 3 collar. As you can see on the screen, I've got it set up at the exact same area. My invisible line is drawn at my physical fence, so let's walk it over there and see how the collar responds. Athena's walking with me. I know you can't see her, but she knows better than to approach the fence. Still not much. I'm out here by my car. There we go. Good 20 feet from the fence line, so not quite as accurate as the SpotOn, I would say. All right, the SpotOn GPS's tracking has to be turned on, and the SpotOn generally updates every 6 seconds. You may notice a little fluctuation here or there. But the one good thing I like about the SpotOn, as you can see here, the collar is on my shoulder. I am the blue dot, and the little gold logo there is the SpotOn. It leaves a trail of what it calls breadcrumbs, and that's something the other two apps do not do. So you can see exactly what path your dog has traveled as you're tracking your dog. I think that's a neat little concept that maybe the Halo and the invisible fence haven't hashed out yet or whatever, because it's better to know exactly where your dog has been, why you're tracking them. That way it makes it a little easier to follow. The Halo, you don't have to turn anything on to track your dog. I mean, it's just already doing it, which I think is convenient. The collar, as I move around the yard here, stays pretty much right next to me. Even though I'm wearing it on my shoulder, I think it's closer and more snug than the SpotOn, even though the SpotOn performed better in the outside test, crossing over the invisible border. It stays pretty close to me here, and we just kind of wheel around and come back to the house, and it never really misses a beat. And that includes open area, open sky, and up underneath the tree line. All right, so the invisible fence failed to go off on the border. It failed to go off on when I came back, and it was actually going off in my backpack once I came back inside the house. So I've had previous issues with the invisible GPS smart collar doing this, and in this instance for the tracking testing, when I go to turn the tracking on, realize the collar is no longer connected to the phone. So multiple attempts to reconnect the collar to the phone were failures, and it ended up just not connecting to the phone. Subscription plans, everybody's favorite. The SpotOn does not have a subscription plan unless you want to track your dog. If you just want to keep set up invisible fences everywhere and keep your dog contained, you know, and you've got your customizable corrections set up and all that good stuff, you don't have to use, or you don't have to purchase a subscription. With the invisible fence, you're locked into an annual subscription, period. The first year is free, you know, at least until they change it, and they've made no indication that they plan to do so. So when you first pick up the invisible fence, GPS fence smart collar, you will get that first year entirely free. After that, you got to pay annually. Halo requires a subscription for use, whether you want to contain your dog or track your dog, and you are, again, locked into yearly subscriptions or monthly subscriptions, whichever you choose to go with. You do have to subscribe, or your Halo collar is essentially a paperweight. Now, as far as this subscription thing goes, I'll give you kind of an example of this. Let's just compare the SpotOn and the Halo, since you get that whole first year free with the invisible GPS, and then you got the annual rate. The SpotOn costs $9.99, the Halo costs $5.69. However, within that first year, after you tally up, you know, your protection plans, your subscription fees, and all that stuff, the Halo is going to cost you around $1,379, and the SpotOn is going to cost you around $1,142. So when it comes to the long term, the SpotOn collar will overtake the Halo and the invisible fence in terms of being the cheaper option. So if you're looking at something long term, a really long lasting, reliable smart collar, then the SpotOn will win out, even though that's a steep upfront cost. All right, some of my key takeaways. The SpotOn is definitely consistent with its updates. It was a little more separate from me as we were doing the tracking test, but it did very well when it came to crossing the invisible barrier. It was only a few feet off, which is basically what I expect from these collars. They're supposed to be accurate to within 4 to 6 feet, and that was around two, maybe 3 feet tops, and went off a little outside the fence, but you're going to experience some fence drift. For accuracy and consistency, SpotOn. Definitely, it just works out every time for me when I do these reviews and I take these collars out there. For affordability, the invisible fence. There's a reason it's affordability. It fails to go off when it's supposed to go off. This is the 3rd or 4th field test I've conducted on it. You can go back and check my previous videos where I field tested it in an open field and in the woods. Neither time did the invisible fence function anywhere near what it was supposed to do. It fails to connect. It fails to go off when it's supposed to. I really just, I can't say anything. I would not trust the invisible fence on my dog whatsoever. In fact, I wouldn't trust it to hold the papers down on my desk where there is no wind in the room. Wouldn't trust it, period. For ease of use, the halo. As you can see with the halo tracking, it was very, very tight, stayed with me all the way. It was a little bit off on the fence there, well, I'll say a little bit, more like 20 feet or so, but I think the more you get out there and the more you use it, it does have AI, precision GPS. I typically use the SpotOn. I don't take the halo out very often anymore just because of the SpotOn's reliability and dependability for me. So I think the halo is still a solid choice. I think it's really a solid choice when it comes to tracking. It's never really let me down when it comes to just going out there and sticking with the phone wherever I walk, or just watching one of the dogs move around out there in the field. And in the testing today, it performed very admirably, so I like the halo for that. All right, that pretty much wraps it up. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That's really going to help the channel out. I think with all 3 collars being tested, doing the tracking, and just a general overview of them, I think the SpotOn probably comes out on top. Like I said, it's the most reliable collar for me. I think the halo did very well with the tracking though, and it has always done very well with the tracking, even though it's sometimes a little more off when it comes to the fence. The invisible GPS fence, I wouldn't bother. You already heard my rant earlier. I won't say no more about that. Make sure you hit up that comment section if you're thinking about an invisible GPS fence, or a SpotOn or a halo. Give me your reactions. Let me know what you think. I always try to jump on there and answer as many questions and concerns as I can. I've got a lot of videos on this stuff. I've got SpotOn reviews, I've got visible fence reviews, halo reviews. If you want to look at something specifically, feel free to go back and check out some of those videos, because I don't report back when I find something bad. I tell you, obviously with the invisible fence, if it's garbage, I'm going to let you know it's garbage, like I've said before. So if you want to know more specifics about these collars, definitely go back and check out those reviews. I've got plenty of them up. Thanks again for checking out the channel today and watching this video in particular, and have a fantastic rest of your week. See you on the next video.